Greetings, traveller. Come in and take a seat by the fire. Once again, viewer discretion is advised, as this tale contains references to torture, although, as before, I have endeavoured to remain well within the realms of propriety. Should you wish to avoid the description of torture's aftermath, please note the timestamp on screen, as this is where these references can be found. Today we will be concluding our latest tale together. A tale of a simple heist turned to desperate rescue. A tale where simple motivations and honest loyalty lead to confrontations which far outweigh the weight of coin. A tale of success and freedom, or a tale of eternal captivity. As you shall see, the choice is yours. The Closing Net, Part 5. Uncle Victor! A bright-eyed girl with flowing blonde hair surges out of the back of the wagon before you can react, launching herself past you and throwing her arms around Victor Freed's waist. 12 years of hard living have made no dent in her enthusiasm. You barely recognize the infant you pulled from a drawer all those years ago. You suppose that means you've done well, at least so far. How's my favourite little bird, Victor sweeps her up into his arms and twirls, the girl's legs swinging backwards, her giggling infectious as the landless nobleman spins her around before depositing her back on the dusty ground with a grin. Gods, you've grown! Where has little Elia gone? I'm nearly as tall as Grunkle. You wince. The nickname was Luther's doing, of course. A portmanteau of Grumpy and Uncle. You almost miss the days when the girl could only cry and fill her drawers. It's factually incorrect as well. She barely comes above your belt. You are that, Victor responds, casting you a smirk. Does that mean I can come and help on the next adventure? Ah, would that you could, my little bird. But for now, you must keep your head low. Perhaps once we've managed to chart a ship out of Karsia, we'll see about getting you a blade of your own. You shoot Victor a frustrated look, but Elia is already brimming with excitement at the prospect, so there is little you can do to dampen the idea in her head now. Instead, you turn your attention to Victor and raise the question with a gesture. What's the job? Victor simply gestures back for patience, and then pulls a small wooden trinket from a belt pouch and hands it to the girl with a wink. Here you are, my dear. A small thing, I know, but all the better to keep with you. Until we get the boat, little bird, perhaps this will help you fly away in your dreams. Victor holds out the trinket, and you see it is a carved model of a hawk. Wings spread wide in flight, pinion feathers rendered in impressive detail. Elia's eyes go wide in surprise and joy. For me? Did you make it? Oh, no, I'm not nearly good enough with a knife, my dear. Uncle Henrik whittled it for you. It took him all month. I think he's rather fond of you. Victor shoots you another grin. Not that he would ever admit it out loud. Oh, wow. Thank you. Not at all, little bird. I'll let him know you liked it. Now, pop back inside for a moment, my dear. Grunkle and I have to discuss our next adventure. But... You silence her with a soft gesture requesting patience, and she signs back resignation before slipping back into the wagon, wide eyes still caught by the magnificent profile of her newly acquired bird. Victor watches her go with a broad smile. She's growing fast, he says, absently. "Before long, it'll be impossible to keep her properly hidden." You allow the reality to sit in the air a while longer, before turning back to Victor and gesturing once more. "The job." He smiles and responds in kind. "The big one. This one pays enough for a ship." You raise your eyebrow, and his response is verbal this time. "The palace vault." Saja looks on in tense indecision, knuckles white on her short sword, as you sidestep a fist and counter with a palm strike that meets nothing but empty air. The creature you call Delin Haljoran is fast and well-versed, and with your enemy wearing your likeness like armour, Saja is too unsure to intervene. In your prime, you could likely meet her, or perhaps it, on an even footing, but years of hiding and waiting have dulled your edge. A leg sweep knocks you to the ground, forcing the wind from you as your doppelganger clambers onto you and pins you down. You scramble to fend off your assailant, blood-slick palms sliding on face as they drive their thumbs into your neck and close your windpipe. You throw a hand out to your side, gesturing frantically, but Henrik is in no state to speak, and neither Saja nor Bradley know your wordless cant. Darkness is swimming at the edge of your vision now, inking your thoughts with oily black. Strength is beginning to flee you, and with a last effort you reach up a faltering hand and wrench down your opponent's cowl. Beneath is no ragged mess of scar tissue, and you realize your hunch was correct. This thing can only imitate what it has seen or heard, and it has never seen the horror beneath your mask. Saja must have realized it too, because even as your vision fades almost to black, a short sword seems to sprout from the facsimile of your own chest, driven into Delin's back by Saja as she finally knows which is the enemy. With a roar, she wrenches her weapon and the impaled enemy on its tip sideways, hauling the shapeshifter off you and slamming Delin down to the ground, before pulling her weapon free and striking again, and then again. Dark fluid, the colour of midnight, splatters across the stone wall. And then the body, identical to your own, begins to bubble and warp. It shifts, flesh melting and sloughing away until little remains but a widening pool of greyish wax, giving off the strong odour of mould. You lie on your back for a moment, chest heaving as you fight, simultaneously to catch your breath and to prevent your throat from making any sound. Saja straightens up and lets out a half-grunt, half-shout of frustration and adrenaline, before pulling a bite of stray hair off her face. She seems unaware of the splattered dark blue blood that coats her from head to toe. Bradley has managed to bind Henrik's stomach wound with a torn strip of fabric, tight enough to staunch the bleeding, at least for now. Such a wound is no laughing matter, even so, and sweat is already beading on Henrik's brow as his chest rises and falls in a faltering wheeze. "Call it even, big guy." Henrik can only manage a grunt in response. After a sufficient pause, you manage to rise to your knees, taking a moment to focus before carefully pulling the blade free of your palm. You bind it, with Saja's help, and try not to think about the state of your tendons. There will be time enough to take stock of how much this will hinder you later. For now, time continues to slip away, and with Henrik indisposed, it falls to the remaining four to finish the job. The remaining 4. Where is Luther? You glance around, knowing that the noises made during your last scuffle would be more than enough to alert him, but he is nowhere to be seen. Seeming to read the concern in your eyes, Bradley speaks up. I'll wait here. Make sure Luther and the big guy here know what's happening. We'll be here as soon as you get back. You nod your thanks, pushing the concern for Luther's whereabouts to the back of your mind. There is simply no time. You force yourself to your feet and set off, haltingly, down the corridor from which Delin had arrived. It's a better lead than nothing, and you make your way as cautiously as you can, Saja in tow. It takes very little time to find the only illuminated cell in the corridor. The small, bespectacled man who stands within, looming over Victor's unconscious form, manages to hide behind his trolley for all of 3 seconds before Saja has seized him by the collar, hauling him up and onto the arrayed tools of torture and pinning him there with her sword. She is a terrifying spectacle in the dark, her visage smeared with dark blood, her eyes wild with adrenaline. You cock an eyebrow at her, and she shrugs. I've no patience for torturers. You leave it at that, and turn to Victor, heart in your mouth. He is as still as the grave, chin resting on an exposed chest that is a mess of injuries. Burns and welts coupled with deep gouges that still weep fresh blood. Your own eyes water at the thought of them, but you shake off your horror and set about releasing him, using the chipped blade of the knife you pulled from your own hand to work the locks free on the manacles, and catching him with a wince as he slumps down, lacking the strength to hold himself up. He is breathing, thank the gods, though his inhales are shallow and wet. You pull your own cloak from your shoulders and begin to hastily cut strips, as Saja does the same with a sheet of linen that had covered the trolley. In a few minutes, Victor is bandaged as best you can manage and draped in the remnants of your cloak. We're going to struggle to get him out of here. Saja reads the determination in your eyes. But we'll figure it out. When you return to the previous room, Henrik is already on his feet, face ashen. He refuses to lean on Bradley's proffered arm. So, the shapeshifter couldn't be trusted. Who'd have thought? Luther has returned too, taking in the carnage around the puddle that was once Delin Haljoran, before shaking his head in disbelief. Bloodless, was it? Saja grimaces, the stains on her face already beginning to dry and crack. I think I'm ready for that pint. We all are, girl. Let's go. You had anticipated a much greater struggle, extricating yourself from the palace grounds, particularly given the carnage you are leaving in your wake. But fortune at last favours you, and beyond a tense moment slipping past some gossiping washerwomen in the servant corridor, you managed to reach the side gate by which you entered, almost entirely unopposed. For whatever reason, many of the courtyard guards have been pulled back to the Great Hall, perhaps for some ceremony or exhibition of strength in the Iron Warden's honour. It is hard to say. It's possible they are gearing up for the Imperial Fool's promised duel with a captured imposter, but you know with a grim satisfaction that the boy Emperor's desire for a spectacle will be disappointed. It takes you only a few minutes to reach the wagon, still at rest where you left it what feels like an age ago. And with Henrik and an unconscious Victor secured within on a bed of spare wagon canvas, Luther takes up the reins once more. You join the rumbling procession of trade wagons that wend their way out of the city gates as another uneventful market day closes in the imperial capital. Leaving the city is far easier than entering. The same guard who waved you in waves you out again with barely a glance, as Luther merrily calls out how profitable the trip has been, and a promise of further shipments of fermented eel to follow in the future. Within the wagon, you sit in silence and allow your mind to settle, filtering out the thick ache in your hand and the fresh sting beneath your cowl. Despite everything, you have succeeded. You can finally escape, finally leave the Karsian Empire behind. Elia will finally be safe. The hearth flickers, guttering flames casting a comfortable orange glow around the tavern's interior. You look to your left, where the hooded figure of the weaver sits, eyes locked on the fire, voice silent once more. A happy ending. About time. You say these things aloud, but the weaver does not respond. Strange. You follow his gaze to the hearth. There, beneath a finely crafted poleaxe, a glowing blue-green crystal rests on the polished wooden mantle. After what feels like an age, the weaver finally responds. A happy ending is easy to find in any tale. You need only choose when to stop listening. If you wish, you may stop here, and this story does indeed end in success and in freedom. Or you may listen on, for no tale ever truly ends. You ponder this for a moment, glancing down at the dregs of foam in the bottom of the clay tankard by your side. You have finished your drink, and with it this tale, but something compels you to remain. After a comfortable silence, you make your decision. You will hear what has not yet been said. Luther steps back, allowing the others to rush forwards into the next room. As Bradley passes, Luther passes him a ring of keys, which he has just pulled from a guard's belt, and then throws Henrik a wink, listening with a smirk as the young ex-soldier saunters into the room and claims the cresset. "These should help, no?" Bradley is still young. With time, he'll make a fine addition to your crew, but he needs to learn to work as a peer instead of as a soldier. Luther turns to scan the corridor from which they have come. Beyond a few fallen guards, all seems quiet, but he has been in too many scrapes to take safety for granted now. You don't live as long as Luther in this business without learning one simple rule. Always watch your back. He can hear the hushed conversation taking place in the next room. It seems there is a decision to be made on how to proceed. With the corridor clear, he turns to rejoin the others and lend them the benefit of his experience. But behind him there is no room. Turning again, the corridor is gone, replaced by a darkness that somehow still manages to shift and seethe, despite there being nothing his eyes can make out. His ears, however, are not so blind. There is someone or something in this darkness with him. Something ancient, something powerful, something unknowable and all-knowing and intangible and impossible, and Luther feels his limbs refusing to respond, feels himself being shoved to the back of his own mind, and there, in the recesses of his own psyche, he is not alone. Something is laughing. Thank you for listening to this, the final part of our most recent tale together. If you have enjoyed this tale, do consider subscribing to be informed of future tales, and please leave a comment below with any thoughts and feedback. I cannot overemphasize how much I value your contributions. Tell me what you thought, how you felt, and what you'd like to see next. I do hope you are enjoying the tales we share together as much as I enjoy making them, and that you will continue to join me in future tales, as I have much, much more I wish to share with you, and I am keen to receive any suggestions you may have on the subject of future videos. Until we meet again, traveller, farewell and safe travels.